Hello everyone, I welcome you again into my class and I want to wish you a very happy new year ahead, and I wish that you all should get success, and by this time next year you may put yourself into the interview board. I wish like that. Thank you very much, and today we are going to start the new chapter. I am writing on the board. Resource mobilization. Resource mobilization for Indian planning. Resource mobilization for Indian planning. तो नियोजन, भारतीय नियोजन या आयोजन, इंडियन प्लानिंग. So planning you can use two words in हिंदी. आयोजन भी कह सकते हो, नियोजन भी कह सकते हो. तो भारतीय नियोजन या आयोजन के लिए संसाधन मोबिलाइज करना, resource mobilization for Indian planning. So here resources are not like geographical resources. You need to understand the topic first of all. What's the sense of a particular topic? Here resource means financial resource basically. धन कहाँ से आएगा, ये पॉइंट है यहाँ पे. रिसोर्स मोबिलाइजेशन फॉर इंडियन प्लानिंग. तो प्लानिंग किसी भी कंट्री के लिए जरूरी होती है. अगर आपको कुछ गोल्स अचीव करने हैं, like in planning you need what, like first of all what are the goals, right? Then time period, sustainable developmental goals, as we often use this word. 2016 से शुरू हुए थे सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंटल गोल्स. तो हमने कहा कि 2030 तक, बाई 2030 हमें ये गोल्स अचीव करना है. टाइम पीरियड, so you are to specify goals, then you are to fix a time period for the achievement of such goals. Then what are the strategies to achieve the goals, and money will come from where? Resources. Here resources means financial resources. तो एक प्लानिंग आप जब करते हो तो ये चीज़ें उसमें होती है. गोल्स फिक्स करते हो, टाइम पीरियड होता है, स्ट्रेटजीज होती हैं, और मनी कहाँ से आएगी, ये वाली बात भी होती है. तो आवर टॉपिक इज नॉट द कंप्लीट प्लानिंग. आवर टॉपिक इज रिसोर्स मोबिलाइजेशन फॉर इंडियन प्लानिंग. So as usual we are to write some lines about the introduction, and gradually we will be moving into the core of this topic. So let us first go for the introduction kind of thing. So in the introduction you should write, in India the Planning Commission and the 5-year plans the Planning Commission and the 5-year plans have been removed This does not imply that India has no role of the planning by the state. लिखने का तरीका होता है कि आप कॉन्ट्रास्ट में लिखते हो कई बार. Why we are having this topic? Knowing the fact that planning commission is not working in our country, we are also not having so-called 5-year plans. Then why this topic we are having in our syllabus? Resource mobilization for Indian planning. So this gives us a kind of stimulus to think. हमें सोचने के लिए ये स्टिमुलस देता है कि आखिर वजह क्या है इस तरह की. So we started our writing like this. In India, the planning commission and the 5-year plans have been removed. खत्म हो गए. 5-year plans भी काम नहीं कर रहे. Planning commission is also not working. तो इसकी implication क्या माने? This does, तो हमने clear cut लिखा, this does not imply that India has no role of the planning by the state. So here by state I mean to say planning by the government, right? क्या उसकी जरूरत नहीं है इंडिया में? क्या इसकी implication ये होगी, right? तो मैंने clear cut अपना stand दे दिया. And you can also understand this कि नहीं, इंडिया में प्लानिंग का रोल है, उसको मैं अब हाईलाइट करूंगा. पहले तो मैंने इसको रिमूव किया कि इसका मतलब ये नहीं होता है कि प्लानिंग का रोल नहीं है. सो चेंज द पैराग्राफ देन राइट इन इंडिया the state planning in India, the state planning is required for the achievement of various socio-economic goals like human development, second inclusive development, third world-class infrastructure, fourth food security, for all, fifth, housing for all, sixth, employment for all, high level of defense and internal security. Development of agriculture. Etc. So if state is not having any planning, um, achieving various types of goals like this, then we cannot automatically achieve these goals, right? Because inclusive development, human development, the state needs funding for all these items. World class infrastructure, I told you, triple P model. If we do not think about providing grants to the private sector, if you remember, I taught you this concept of VGF, viability gap funding. I taught you TOT model. Through TOT model, you go for monetization of national highways. So you are having planning. You are thinking that we are to give these already operational national highways to the private sector companies, as I told you, for a time period of 30 years. 30 साल के लिए पहले से चल रहे नेशनल हाईवेज को हमें देना है और उनसे अमाउंट लेनी है, फिर उस अमाउंट का इस्तेमाल करना है नई इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में। ये सब प्लानिंग नहीं तो क्या है? विदाउट प्लानिंग हम वीजीएफ नहीं दे सकते, विदाउट प्लानिंग हम टीओटी मॉडल नहीं चला सकते। तो आप समझ सकते हो, फूड सिक्योरिटी, नेशनल फूड सिक्योरिटी एक्ट, देयर फाइनेंसिंग, every every item, housing for all, we cannot ensure unless there is a provision by the government, right? So a high level of defense, private sector will not be working for defense, private sector will not be working for employment of all the people. So state planning is required. Why private sector will make a planning for these goals? State planning is required, and if state is to plan, then there is a need of getting a good amount of funds to achieve these goals. So you are to assert in your writing that state planning in India is required, right? Change the paragraph after this, then write. It is to be noted that the, the private sector working on the basis of the private sector working on the basis of market model is not able to achieve the above goals because because the market can bring equilibrium वजह बता रहा हूँ मैंने यहाँ पे लिखवाया आपको. It is to be noted that the private sector working on the basis of market model is not able to achieve the above goals because the market can bring equilibrium between the supply and demand backed by the purchasing power. The market can bring equilibrium between the supply and demand backed by the purchasing power, but not between the supply and the need. This is very important line. The market can bring equilibrium between the supply and demand backed by the purchasing power, but not between the supply and the need. So, in economics, when we use this word demand, there are three items in one word. You cannot talk about demand until unless three items are present. You must have need, you must have purchasing power to fulfill the need, and tendency to spend. डिमांड का मतलब ये नहीं होता है कि presently temperature is quite low in Delhi, very much low, and many more people, poor people, must be shivering in the cold, so they may have a kind of demand for blankets and other items. बहुत सर्दी होने की वजह से उनको डिमांड होगी इस समय कि हमें कंबल चाहिए, ब्लैंकेट चाहिए, लेकिन इकोनॉमिक्स में इसको डिमांड नहीं कहेंगे जब तक कि इसको हम नीड कहेंगे कि उनको ब्लैंकेट की नीड है. डिमांड वो कब बनेगी? जब द कंसर्न्ड पीपल आर हैविंग एनफ परचेजिंग पावर टू बाय द ब्लैंकेट्स, एंड मेनी टाइम्स people may have purchasing power, they may also be having a need of any item, but they are not having tendency to spend. कई लोग होते हैं जो पैसा भी होता है लेकिन उसको स्पेंड करने की टेंडेंसी नहीं रखते. तो इफ एनी आइटम इज मिसिंग आउट ऑफ द थ्री, डिमांड वर्ड डज नॉट बिकम कंप्लीट. इकोनॉमिक्स में डिमांड में तीन चीजें होनी चाहिए. तो लैंग्वेज क्या कह रही है कि मार्केट कैन ब्रिंग इक्विलिब्रियम. इक्विलिब्रियम मीन्स मतलब इक्वालिटी ले आता है. सप्लाई बराबर हो जाती है डिमांड के. कोई भी चीज आप डिमांड करो लेकिन डिमांड में यू आर टू रिमेंबर दैट, और यू आर टू कीप इन योर माइंड ऑलवेज दैट थ्री आइटम्स आर रिक्वायर्ड टू मेक दिस वर्ड. तो मार्केट उन्हीं लोगों के लिए काम करेगा जो नीड भी रखते हैं, परचेजिंग पावर भी रखते हैं और उसको खर्च भी करना चाहते हैं, उनके लिए इक्विलिब्रियम ले आएगा। मतलब कि एज दे डिमांड देयर विल बी सप्लाई, राइट, the supply will be balancing itself according to demand. This is the picture of any market, right, you can say. But same market cannot bring equilibrium between need and supply. So if you are having need but not demand, means you are not having purchasing power, tendency to spend, then market will not bring equilibrium for you. Very much interesting thing. You can take one example, food security. A person is hungry, he is needing food, but he is not having purchasing power. No restaurant will be working for him. Sagar Ratna, whatever kind of restaurant, McDonald's, etc., they will not be working for that person's because he is hungry, right? He is having a need. No, they will see that whether you are ready to pay for the food or not. हम सबके लिए हेल्थ भी अचीव करना चाहते हैं। पोलियो वैक्सीनेशन में हम कहते हैं, मतलब 2 बूंद जिंदगी की करके हम ऐसा स्लोगन बोलते हैं। तो यहाँ पे स्टेट ही काम कर सकता है, मार्केट तो आपको फ्री में वैक्सीनेशन नहीं देगा। तो आप इस चीज को समझें कि because in the previous class I taught you liberalization, and liberalization and markets go together. Liberalization is a kind of legal atmosphere of freedom for the markets. It is a kind of pitch for the cricket of the market, right? तो क्या हम ये बोल सकते हैं कि since India is having liberalization for the last 30 years, so what is the role of the state planning? Houses will be provided by the private companies, food will be provided by the private companies. If you go by anarcho-capitalism, as proposed by this Javier Milei, about whom I was speaking quite many times in your class, तो क्या हम इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी वगैरह का समाधान, डिफेंस का समाधान भी प्राइवेट मार्केट से निकाल सकते हैं? तो ऐसा संभव नहीं है। तो हमें स्टेट प्लानिंग की जरूरत है। वर्ल्ड क्लास इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट, इंक्लूसिव डेवलपमेंट, फूड सिक्योरिटी, एम्प्लॉयमेंट, पॉवर्टी इरेडिकेशन, इन सब चीज़ों के लिए। सो दिस इज क्वाइट इम्पोर्टेंट लाइन, और ये लाइन इस्तेमाल करी थी आदरणीय पीवी नरसिम्हा राव सर ने, स्वर्गीय, हु वाज द आर्किटेक्ट ऑफ द पॉलिसी ऑफ लिबरलाइजेशन। One day I told you Manmohan Singh sir was the finance minister and PV Narasimha Rao sir was the Manmohan Singh sir was the finance minister and PV Narasimha Rao sir was the prime minister. वो प्रधानमंत्री थे नरसिम्हा राव सर और ये वित्त मंत्री थे। इन्होंने इस मॉडल को डेवलप किया जो हमारे इंडिया में है। लेकिन इन 8th 5 प्लान डॉक्यूमेंट्स PV Narasimha Rao sir wrote this line. I used his line here. जिन्होंने लिबरलाइजेशन का मॉडल बनाया वो ही उसकी माइनस पॉइंट बता रहे हैं। The market can bring equilibrium between the supply and demand backed by the purchasing power, but not between the supply and the need. This quotation is by late Honorable Sir PV Narasimha Rao, Prime Minister, previous Prime Minister of our country. Right. Change the paragraph in the introduction. Apart from the above, markets do not go for various social and collective goals. markets do not take into account social impact of private decisions regarding consumption and production. I will explain you. Let us complete the writing task first. For private decisions regarding consumption and production. In view of the above, the role of this state planning in India can be well understood. In view of the above, कहते हैं ना उपर्युक्त के प्रकाश में, in the light of the above, ऐसे भी in view of the above, the role of this state planning in India can be well understood. Two extra things we wrote here. Apart from the above, markets do not go for various social and collective goals. Markets always work for individualistic goals. कलेक्टिव गोल्स के लिए वो काम नहीं करेंगे कभी भी. आपने कई बार देखा होगा कि suppose you can think about an apartment where various flat owners are living, और जो स्टेप्स होती है, सीढ़ियाँ होती है, वो कॉमन है. ये कॉमन है, उनकी सफाई, क्लीनिंग कॉमन गोल है. So every flat owner is doing what? They are cleaning their own flat. उनका फ्लैट साफ कर रहे हैं, लेकिन सीढ़ी को साफ नहीं कर रहे क्योंकि सीढ़ी कॉमन है, तो वहां गंदगी इकट्ठी हो जाएगी, सीढ़ियों पे लाइट्स की प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगी. एंड एवरीबडी विल बी थिंकिंग दैट स्टेप्स आर कॉमन, सो व्हाई आई शुड वर्क फॉर देम. ग्रेजुअली क्या होगा, सीढ़ियां डस्टी हो जाएगी, उनमें प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगी, लाइट नहीं होगी. धीरे धीरे वो लोग इस बात को रियलाइज करेंगे. देन दे विल बी कॉन्स्टिट्यूटिंग अ कमिटी. एक समिति बनाएंगे आपस में, और कुछ मेंबर्स बन जाएंगे, उनको पावर मिल जाएगा. देन एवरीबडी इज टू पे, कि हर महीने हर एक फ्लैट ओनर को कुछ कुछ देना पड़ेगा. सो दैट कमिटी इज वर्किंग लाइक अ स्टेट, and they are working in a planning manner, in which way they are having goals of lighting, goals of cleaning, and they have gone for collection of funds. यहाँ भी स्टेट आ गया, एक तरह से छोटे रूप में आ गया. आपको स्टेट को समझना हो इस तरह से, तो कॉमन गोल्स के लिए आपको स्टेट एजेंसी लानी ही पड़ेगी. Why? Because markets are individualistic. People see their private utilities, private benefits when they make any kind of payment. Nobody is thinking to make payment for the cleaning of steps, thinking that they are common items, why I should pay for that. Later on what will happen, a chaotic system will develop. तब बाद में जाके कहीं वो लोग फिर इस पे विचार करेंगे, और तब फिर उनको एक प्लानिंग करनी पड़ेगी. आप उसको कह सकते हो कि एक स्टेट प्लानिंग जैसा है ये यहाँ पे. तो अपार्ट फ्रॉम द अबव, मार्केट्स डू नॉट गो फॉर वेरियस सोशल एंड कलेक्टिव गोल्स. आगे है markets do not take into account social impact of private decisions regarding consumption and production. When anybody is thinking to purchase a car, diesel car, he is thinking only about himself. He is not thinking about use of diesel will lead to what more emission of CO2 in the atmosphere. He is not thinking about that. Then state is to come. And I taught you carbon tax, if you remember my class. So state is to plan for that, how to discipline the people, how to discourage the people, so that they use less of diesel cars. Plantation of trees and other common items are also there, about which the state can only work technically. So you have to understand private decisions का भी सोशल इम्पैक्ट होता है. आज आप कोई भी चीज प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हो, कंज्यूम कर रहे हो, ये प्राइवेट अपना डिसीजन है आपका, बट it is having some kind of social impact. So when we decide to do such items, very few people think about what is going to happen with others, right? So recently only we celebrated this 31st December, New Year. So louder music, crackers, everything people did. So do you think that when they were doing like this thing, they were behaving according to social goals? And during festival times like Diwali, etc., we see problem for the those patients who are suffering from asthma, because air becomes hugely polluted, but we never mind it. And many more people, when we fly these kites, and we know that Chinese threads are used by the people, उससे गला कट जाता है, लोग गिर जाते हैं, परेशान हो जाते हैं. We never think about such because we see our private utility of enjoyment from the game. So how much money I gave for the thread and for the kites, and what is the utility which I am getting from that? This comparison is only our picture. We are not thinking about negative utility which is there for others. So from this discussion you can also understand the role of state, where we talk about markets, right? When we talk about markets, what is the role of this state? So you can think in that way, right? So this is quite clear that we are having the role of planning in our country. Then next question arises is what? Then why we removed planning commission and 5-year plans? This is going to be our next heading after introduction, right? So after introduction, please write this: new structure of planning in India. In India, the process of planning has not been removed. Has not been removed. Rather, it has been replaced by a new structure. it is now long term and more decentralized. पहले की तुलना में लॉन्ग टर्म हो गया है. इट इज नाउ लॉन्ग टर्म एंड मोर डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड. The governing council the governing council of the Niti Aayog also includes states as members. The governing council of the Niti Aayog also includes states as members. Both the center and the states work as the Team India. मोदी जी ने टर्म यूज किया था. Both the center and the states work as the Team India for the execution formulation and execution of the national development agenda. We are having a kind of national development agenda, and this has been formulated by center and states taken together. पहले जो 5 प्लान्स होते थे उसमें स्टेट्स का रोल नहीं होता था प्लान फॉर्मुलेशन में, राइट. प्लानिंग कमीशन फॉर्मुलेट करता था विच वाज 100% सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट बॉडी, and only NDC, National Development Council, was to pass the plan. But if you study the composition of NDC, तो उसमें सारे सेंट्रल मेंबर्स ही ज़्यादा थे. सारे जो भी कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर्स होते थे वो उसके मेंबर होते थे. प्लानिंग कमीशन के मेंबर्स सारे उसके मेंबर्स होते थे. चीफ मिनिस्टर्स भी उसके मेंबर होते थे, लेकिन उनकी नंबर बहुत छोटी रह जाती थी अगर आप सारी कैबिनेट मिनिस्ट्रीज को देखें और प्लानिंग कमीशन के मेंबर्स उसमें ऐड करते हैं. एंड बाय मेजोरिटी ऑफ वोट्स 5 प्लान्स यूज्ड टू बी पास्ड बाय द एनडीसी. अब मेजोरिटी किसकी रहेगी? सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के लोगों की रहेगी. सो एनडीसी वाज नॉट हैविंग मच पावर रिगार्डिंग हैविंग द रोल ऑफ एनी से बाय द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स. वो सिर्फ एक फॉर्मेलिटी के रूप में वहाँ पे जाते थे और पार्टिसिपेट करते थे, knowing the fact that anyhow the central government would be able to pass this एनी काइंड ऑफ 5 रिप्लाई, उनको पता रहता था इस चीज का, कोई मतलब नहीं था उसका। नए स्ट्रक्चर में क्या, सेंटर एंड द स्टेट्स वर्क इज द टीम इंडिया फॉर द फॉर्मुलेशन एंड एग्जीक्यूशन of the national development agenda. The new structures can be shown through a figure, through a diagram. So we need to make a diagram for better presentation of the whole scenario. So let us go for that. You have to write 3 major items in vision. 15 years, SDGs, Sustainable Developmental Goals, Defense and Internal Security. These goals we are to achieve long-term time period 15 years, right? Then we are to make 7-year strategies, implementable policies. We are to execute those policies which can be fully implemented in a time span of 7 years. So here you are to write implementable policy. Action plan under implementable policy. This is our new structure, and this governing council is having center as a member and also states as a member. And this governing council is deciding about vision, strategy, action. So this is like this. This is the new structure of planning. Niti Aayog, and Niti Aayog is having a governing council. Center and states are both the members, a kind of cooperative federalism. There is a term cooperative federalism. Both cooperate with each other. Then 15-year vision, under vision there are strategies, under strategies there are action plans. This is something like this. So this is your broader vision. This is strategy. And this is action. It's something like this. So when you present yourself, when you will be presenting yourself for IS interview, you will be asked a question: why you want to become an IS officer? Why you want to become? That answer is something like your vision, because you are thinking that my strategy is to become an IS officer to achieve that vision. And under strategy, you are having short term type of action plans, like which kind of optional I should take, from where I should get the coaching, for how many years I should prepare, means 2 or 3 years. So your action is under the strategy is under the vision. This way you can understand this. So sustainable developmental goals, they are 17 in number. We want to achieve them. Apart from that, we want to make our defense stronger and internal security stronger. So apart from SDGs, India is having 2 extra goals of defense and internal security. This is the part of our vision. And various schemes and other things are the part of strategy and then action. That way you are to understand this. system. So vision, strategy, action. So our planning has become long-term sort of item, 15 years. That way you need to understand. And it is more participatory. Why? Because center and states both are participating. So more decentralized or participatory. If you see unsolved papers of UPSC, उन्होंने पूछा भी है नीति आयोग और प्लानिंग कमीशन के काम करने में क्या फर्क था. So planning commission was completely working as a central body. Centralization of powers was there. Why we see that the governing council of Niti Aayog is having more participatory nature, inclusion of states regarding formulation of national development agenda and execution of national development agenda. This way you can understand it. So overall, I made you understand the new structure of planning, and I also made you understand what is the role of planning in our country and where markets are having limitations. Now we need to study strategy of resource mobilization. फंडिंग कहाँ से आएगी? This we need to see. So first you are to suggest that increase in tax revenue. स्टेट का सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट जो सोर्स होता है रेवेन्यू का वो टैक्स होता है इन पब्लिक फाइनेंस. आई टोल्ड यू राइट. सो tax is unilateral payment by the people of a country to the government against which the state is not required to give any kind of good or service. Neither the state is required to return. न वस्तु देनी है, न सेवा देनी है, न उसको वापस लौटाना है. तो सबसे बेस्ट सोर्स टैक्स रेवेन्यू होता है. बट इट इज इजियर सेड देन डन कि ये कहना बहुत आसान है कि टैक्स रेवेन्यू बढ़ना चाहिए. तरीका क्या होगा उसका? सो वी कैन राइट सम आइटम्स फॉर दिस. Appropriate rates of taxation. I taught you Laffer-Kerr theory in public finance, and in that theory we understood that by continuous increase in the tax rate we cannot increase our tax revenue. So far as I remember, I made a diagram in the class, and our optimum tax rate in that class note was T3. If you see the class notes, up to the tax rate T3, whenever we increase the tax rate up to this point, revenue also got increased. But from this point onwards, revenue started declining. Right? So I gave you the reasoning why it happens. I said you that at very high tax rates, people will prefer leisure over work. आराम पसंद करेंगे, काम नहीं करना चाहेंगे. और इनकम काम से आती है. जब वो काम नहीं करेंगे तो इनकम नहीं आएगी. इनकम नहीं आएगी तो आप टैक्स रेट कितना भी रख लें, रेवेन्यू नहीं आएगा. तो टैक्स रेट एप्रोप्रिएट होनी चाहिए. पहला सजेशन आप ये दे सकते हो इसमें. to bring agricultural income of non-farmers into the tax net to bring agricultural income of non-farmers. Agricultural income is not the part of income taxation in our country. So many people misuse it. They are not actually farmers, but they purchase agricultural land and they show a part of their income is coming from agriculture. And they know that there is no tax on that income. So through zero tax, they make their income white because they are declaring before the government. So such income cannot be called black. डिक्लेयर कर रहे हैं, वो कह रहे हैं हम टैक्स देने के लिए तैयार हैं, आप टैक्स लगा दो इस पर, जीरो टैक्स है तो हम नहीं दे रहे हैं, बाकी बता रहे हैं. So farmers are not actually taking advantage of this thing. Those people who are non-farmers are mostly taking the benefit of this. So you can also suggest that non-farmers may be brought into the agricultural income of non-farmers may be brought into the tax net. And Raja J. Chalaiya committee said once that those people who are earning more than rupees 25,000 a year income from agriculture and they are non-farmers, then their income more than rupees 25,000 should be under the income tax net. But unfortunately we could not implement that recommendation up to now. तो आप ये भी बोल सकते हो. Imposition of some new direct taxes like the tax on succession or the death tax. Etc. You can suggest about the imposition of some new taxes, and there is one important tax called tax on succession. It is also called as death tax. Some people call it estate duty, right? Some people call it inheritance tax. Inheritance tax. So if you impose this tax, there will be collection for the government of tax revenue, and you are also able to remove asset inequalities in our country. क्योंकि इस टैक्स में क्या होता है, पेरेंट्स की डेथ के बाद जो सक्सेशन में आपको चीजें मिलती है, प्रॉपर्टी मिलती है, उस पे लगता है ये टैक्स ऑन सक्सेशन. इसको डेथ टैक्स भी कहते हैं. इसमें स्लैब बना सकते हो आप, कुछ एग्जेम्पशन दे सकते हो, उसके बाद में कह सकते हो कि इससे ज़्यादा प्रॉपर्टी है तो आपको ये टैक्स देना होगा. जापान में ये सबसे ज़्यादा है. इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हमारे देश में अलाउ करता है इसको. So this can also be suggested by you. D. Various rebates and concessions in taxation various rebates and concessions in taxation can be reduced and oblique removed. In other words, tax expenditure should be removed or reduced. 2013 के मेंस में एक सवाल आया था, what do you understand by tax expenditure? So what is tax expenditure? It is revenue loss to the government due to rebates and concessions in taxation. When you say, if you open factory northeast side, if you open a factory in northeast side, your CIT will be lower. CIT means corporate income tax will be lower. So you are providing a kind of exemption, or you are giving a kind of concession or rebate. So this will lead to revenue loss. This revenue loss is called tax expenditure. हम कहते हैं कि विमेन के लिए एग्जेम्पशन लिमिट ऊपर होता है इनकम टैक्स का, तो ये लिमिट को ऊपर करने से सरकार को रेवेन्यू लॉस होती है. दिस रेवेन्यू लॉस इज कॉल्ड टैक्स एक्सपेंडिचर. So whenever you will be providing rebate, you will be providing concession, any kind of relaxation, this will lead to loss of revenue. That loss of revenue is how much? That is called tax expenditure, right? So I'm using technical language. Why? Because there was a question regarding this, and in prelims also they can ask you what is tax expenditure. There is a big probability. और कुछ स्टूडेंट सोचते हैं कि टैक्स को कलेक्ट करने में जो खर्चा होता है वो टैक्स एक्सपेंडिचर. विदाउट रीडिंग एनीथिंग दे जस्ट ट्राई टू स्पेकुलेट. So deliberately I brought this word in the class so that you can get a new word in case UPSC happens to ask you, right? The various rebates and concessions in taxation can be reduced oblique removed. Control on the tendencies of tax evasion and tax avoidance. So we are to control the tendencies of tax evasion. I taught you in public finance, tax evasion is completely illegal. It is the act of not paying tax on any taxable income or asset. कोई भी इनकम या एसेट जो टैक्सेबल है बट आप उस पर टैक्स नहीं देते हो, नो मैटर वेदर यू अर्नड दैट इनकम और एसेट लीगली और इलीगली, कैसे भी आपने उसको कमाया हो, लेकिन अगर आपने उस पर टैक्स नहीं दिया तो ये टैक्स इवेजन है, कंप्लीटली इलीगल है और ब्लैक मनी बन जाएगा. वो इनकम और एसेट ब्लैक मनी बन जाएगा. Right? And tax avoidance is legal But with malified intention, people try to exploit loopholes in law to reduce their tax burden. Their intention is not bona fide, their intention is malified. So, both are not good things, right, for the country. So, we need to control both of these items. This will also improve our revenue collection. And finally, the reforms in tax administration. Etc. Artificial intelligence, which be faceless, whatever you want to do, improvement in tax administration is required, right? So these suggestions you can give regarding how to increase tax revenue in our country. So first item of resource mobilization, we understood increase in tax revenue, and under that I gave you multiple steps to ensure that, right? Now second is what? Increase in the surplus of the industries of the public sector. When I taught you public finance, I taught you revenue receipts, and we divided revenue receipts into two parts, tax and non-tax, if you remember. And at the time, I might have said you, I think, that in non-tax revenue, the largest contribution is from dividends and profits. That dividend and profit is this thing, surplus. And RBI gives largest amount of profit to the government, but RBI is not an industry. I am talking about industries. By chance, RBI gives. Regulators are never enterprises or industries, right? First thing, improvement in their functioning. टेक्नोलॉजी वगैरह कोई भी चीज़ में चेंज करके हमें उनकी फंक्शनिंग में इम्प्रूवमेंट करना है. सेकंड, बेटर यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी. कैपेसिटीज, कई सारे प्लांट्स जो पब्लिक सेक्टर के हैं बहुत मेगालिथिक के बड़े हैं, उनकी कैपेसिटी के बराबर प्रोडक्शन नहीं कर पाते हम लोग. एक्सेसिव कैपेसिटी रह जाती है उनमें. Therefore, I am writing this. If you study various reports of CAG under Article 148, CAG wrote quite extensively about how we are utilizing the capacities of our public sector industries. Autonomy in management. So ministers try to control because different industries come under different ministries, and ministers try to intervene. And IS officers are mostly chairmen of such industries, and they try to take some bold decisions. But ministers intervene, and they say that you are not to go before the public to ask for the votes. So why are you suggesting about staff reduction and such type of policies? And if you don't listen me, I will ensure your transfer from this place. So you are not to suggest such things which are against my political future. So ministers usually intervene in the functioning of. So there is a need of giving them autonomy. Implementation of better price policies. Etc. So many public sector enterprises or industries are not able to change the price. They are not able to increase the price. You can see this thing in the case of oil marketing companies. So many a times government does not give them permission to increase the price of oil. So they start incurring losses, right? So we need to implement better price policies in the sense that at least they are not to incur losses. So such suggestions you can give regarding how we can increase in the surplus of the industries of the public sector. So tax revenue is over. In non-tax side, we are talking about surplus, and third suggestion, appropriate imposition of user charges for various utility services. If you see this word utility services, services which are useful for the public, you can count certain names like electricity, you can like irrigation, you can talk about drinking water, you can think about transport, etc. And for these services, appropriate user charges are not collected. Tarification is not proper. So what suggestion we can give for this? Should be such that operational cost is recovered. Operational cost is recovered. In utility services, you are not to suggest that government should earn profits because they are public oriented services. So our collection of tariffs should be what? That our operational cost is covered or recovered, right? Not profit. Profit you should suggest for industries. For utility services, you should say recovery of operational cost, right? So third point, third suggestion is over. Fourth, downsizing the government. What's the sense of it? To reduce the size of the government. The focus should be on what? Minimum government and maximum governance, right? मतलब गवर्नेंस का मतलब ये नहीं कि आप सरकार की साइज को ही बड़ा करते रहो. Means if you increase the number of policemen and you think that there will be better law and order, you may be mistaken. So you should also focus on policing, not the number of policemen. That is the parallel example which I can throw before you to give the idea in a brief way. That minimum government and maximum governance is an idea, and you should accept it like an idea. The thinker wants to say what, that you should focus on not the number but how to better govern, right? So size we should reduce so that we are not spending more money on salaries, pensions, like that, and we should focus on how to better govern, right? In this respect, you can also focus on use of IT. In better governance, I think IT is quite important. So the use of IT. If anybody can file FIR online, then it is quite easier for him. So use of IT will make reach to the government a fast, quick and less burdensome for the people, क्योंकि वो थाने में जाता है उसको प्रॉब्लम होती है. ऑनलाइन FIR करोगे ज़्यादा इजी वे में एक व्यक्ति कर सकता है, ज़्यादा कंफर्टेबल भी वो रह सकता है। रिपोर्टिंग्स ला सकते हो, एसएमएस अलर्ट सिस्टम वगैरह से आप हर काम की एक्शन पूछ सकते हो अपने सबऑर्डिनेट से। आईटी है तो फिर रिपोर्टिंग फिजिकल की क्या जरूरत है, ऑनलाइन तुरंत रिपोर्ट करिए क्या हुआ उस चीज का। और दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट और एमसीडी ने बीच में ये अभियान चलाया यहाँ पे कि जहाँ भी आपको डर्ट दिखे, कचरा दिखे, तो आप उसका फोटो खींचिए, व्हाट्सएप करिए, एक नंबर दिया और उसकी सफाई कराई जाएगी तुरंत। तो आईटी makes governance quite, easy for the people, I think so. So the use of IT is something like e-governance sort of thing. So it will lead to e-governance. Apart from the above, redeployment of excessive staff in same point, in this point only you are to write this point, fourth number मैं बात कर रहा हूँ। Apart from the above, redeployment of excessive staff in various departments by providing training. ऐसा इसलिए कि आपको नई वैकेंसी नहीं निकालनी पड़े, रीडिप्लॉयमेंट करिए, एक्सेसिव स्टाफ को पहचान करिए, ट्रेनिंग देके उसको दूसरे डिपार्टमेंट में रीडिप्लॉयमेंट करवाइए। तो इससे डाउन साइजिंग ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट की गोल पूरी हो जाएगी। एंड फिफ्थ एंड लास्ट सजेशन इज reduction in government expenditure. So in government expenditure, we are not to reduce capex, capital expenditure. We are to work more around revex, revenue expenditure. So focus should be what? And in revenue expenditure subsidies, in subsidies, demerit subsidies. डीमेरिट सब्सिडीज उनको कहते हैं जो डीमेरिट गुड्स के ऊपर आ जाती है। देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ गुड्स, मेरिट एंड डीमेरिट। डीमेरिट गुड्स आर आल्सो समटाइम्स कॉल्ड एज नॉन मेरिट। किसी भी गुड्स का आप इस्तेमाल करते हो या प्रोडक्शन करते हो, वट एवर टाइप ऑफ गुड्स यू प्रोड्यूस और कंज्यूम, इफ अदर्स आर गेटिंग negative utility, negative utility because of that, then such goods are called demerit goods. Diesel, petrol, they are something like demerit goods. So in subsidies you should focus on demerit subsidies, right, which are negative, which are promoting the consumption and production of those goods which are negative for others, right. And apart from the above, इसी पॉइंट के लिए the OPS, old pension system, should not be implemented. आप पढ़ रहे होंगे न्यूज़पेपर्स में कई स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ओल्ड पेंशन सिस्टम को लाने के लिए बोल रही है. ओल्ड पेंशन सिस्टम was completely any pension to the government employee was to be given completely by the government. There was no contribution from employee side. In 2004 July, we implemented new pension system in which employees also to contribute, and government will also contribute, but employee is also to contribute. But some states are telling that no, they will reintroduce this OPS. तो प्रेजेंट सेंस में आप लिख सकते हो कि OPS नहीं आना चाहिए, सारा का सारा जो बर्डन है वो गवर्नमेंट पे आ जाएगा. These 5 points you can suggest, and final conclusion you should write this: India can make a suitable strategy of resource mobilization. For planning. So with this topic is over, friends. So let's meet in the next class. Thank you very much.